the Lloyd's List Shipping Podcast.
Welcome to the Lloyd's List podcast. I'm Michelle VC-Bachmann, Markets Editor of Lloyd's List, filling in for Richard Mead. This week's podcast comes to you via New York. I've spoken to John Kartsonas, is founder and managing partner of Breakwave Advisors. He talks about how he established his first exchange-traded fund known as BDRY. If you check the ticker on the New York Stock Exchange, you can see that the dry market volatility of past years and the rise of the home-based retail investor has really worked in its favour. BDRY offers exposure to dry freight markets via forward freight agreements known as FFAs, which are futures used to hedge the forward shipping price. I'll let him explain.
The idea of Breakwave was initially to open a market that was very difficult to access to all investors. So we started thinking about that somewhere in 2015 and 16. And at that point, we thought that this is a market that was very interesting. In the previous cycle, did very well. And as we know, shipping is cyclical. So anticipating the next cycle, we thought that how can we open this market to every investor to take advantage of the strength and the volatility of FFAs, of the freight futures. Today, and back then of course as well, it's impossible, virtually impossible for the everyday investor, including even the institutional investor, to trade FFAs. Why? Because they trade over the counter, so you have to pick up the phone, call a broker, tell him what you're going to do, buy, sell, what you're going to buy at what price. And then the broker has to basically match you with a corresponding seller or buyer. Mm-hmm. Then you have to send it to the clearing exchange, which is not even the regular exchanges that the futures trade. You have to have an account that today in Europe it's almost impossible to open because of regulations. And in the US they don't even care about these accounts. So it's a whole hassle to get involved in this market. So we said, can we make that simpler, right? How can somebody just click a button and buy exposure to freight futures? So that led us to the exchange-traded fund, market, which basically what it does, it packages different products, and our product is freight futures, into a fund, and then lists that into a regular exchange. We're trading at the New York Stock Exchange, and people can buy and sell that as they buy any other stock. As any stock that, thousands of stocks are listed there, with the click of the button, you get exposure to freight futures. So that's what we do.
What sort of volumes are trading on the ETF?
So when we started, it was very slow, obviously a new product, nobody knew about it. So our first mission in the first year and a half was to raise the awareness that we're around, as well as educate people about the freight futures market, what it is, what are the correlations, how it relates to other economic indicators and so on. After I think like the first year and a half was slow, but once the pandemic hit, suddenly I think there was a rush of investors to catch a bottom in a lot of investments. Mm. And I think freight was one of the first ones to bottom back in the beginning of the pandemic when China was getting hit by COVID. Freight rates collapsed. And I think a lot of investors saw that as a recovery trade. So volumes started to pick up then. And since then, our volumes, a lot of days are exceeding the volumes of some of the, of the major shipping companies out there. So I think right now we're trading on average between 5 and 10 million US dollars a day, mm-hmm. which if you think that the size of the market and how niche shipping is, especially dry bulk shipping, it is significant. So, I think like it has become a go-to product for people who want to, trade in dry bulk shipping. I think people are understanding much better now what it is. I think they embrace the volatility. I think it's the most volatile exchange-traded fund out there, mm-hmm. of the 3,000 that are listed. And I mean, again, it can do very well. Like last year was the best performing fund in the world, unlevered. This year, of course, is down, but again, it's a very volatile product. So it's not about performance year after year. You trade in this product. So it was very good last year. We'll see what happens this year. Again, calendar calculations are not always precise because when you start and when you finish matters. But I think if you look for a volatile product involved in shipping, BDRY is the product.